Shana Tova. I kind of figure, while I have a captive audience, I would take this opportunity to apologize. 'Tis the season. I gotta admit I'm a little nervous. I want to apologize, really, for a sermon that I gave on High Holidays a few years ago. Not that I think that what I said was wrong, per se. It's just that reflecting on it now, in the world we live in now, my answer then seems insubstantial. I think it was right enough for the time, but it is woefully lacking right now. 3 years ago, I stood literally right here, and I told you how every High Holidays of my professional life has been chaos, because my very first was in 2017. So my first High Holidays at Beth Yeshurun was at church, because we flooded real bad from Harvey. And then in 2018, I was pregnant, so, you know. And then in 2019, I had a newborn. And then in 2020, the pandemic hit. So on and so forth. And I went on to say that far from those situations being aberrations, far from them being unusual, that life itself is chaos. That throughout history, life is, and it always has been, chaos somewhere to someone, if not to you personally. 3 years ago, I stood right here, and I waxed poetic about how to get through chaotic times. Whether they're happening to you personally, like a new baby or going through a divorce, or to your entire community, like a pandemic or a flood. But there was a flaw. There was a flaw undercutting that sermon, a sermon I delivered to you at High Holidays just a few years ago, but it's a flaw that I only realized recently. Because in that sermon, the kinds of chaos that I talked about all had a start point and an end point. The pandemic, that was chaos, right? We all remember when that started. And it went on for a while, and while COVID is definitely still a thing, we're not at like pandemic levels, anymore, thank God. When you have a newborn, that's chaos. And you definitely remember when it starts. And it feels like it's gonna go on forever, but eventually, they fall asleep through the night, and that phase ends. And therein lies the flaw. Because I think about what has been nicknamed my chaos sermon. I think about it, well, not infrequently these days. Since life, if you haven't noticed, life right now is, it's something. Chaotic would be a word to describe it. How you, anytime, can just look down at your phone, morning, noon, or night. You can just switch on the news, and there's just a constant barrage. There's always another headline, boom, and another headline, boom, and another one, boom, protests are up in thus and such city, boom, markets tank as XYZ thing takes effect, boom, another anti-Semitic hate crime injures however many, boom, however many kids just got shot at school, boom, state senator and her husband shot dead in their home, boom, political podcaster shot dead while speaking, boom. Saying that chaos is the norm is one thing. Saying we have to learn to get through it is one thing when it has a clear start and end point. Living every moment of your life in a state of perpetual chaos and alarm is untenable. And yet that's what it feels like we're doing right now. I was talking to my best friend She just had a baby last month, and she said to me, Sarah, it's so crazy because my days are so full, they're so packed. Diaper changes and feeding and washing bottles, diapers and swaddles and naps, and it's weird because at the same time I'm doing all that stuff, I just see the news and my mind is going, what the heck is going on out there now? And because we're friends, and we've been friends since we were 12. I didn't have to wear my rabbi hat. I could wear my friend hat. And I could say, girl, same. It is wild that we still pack lunch and pump gas and do laundry and go to our jobs and type our emails and take our meetings at the same time that the world is burning down around our houses. It is so much right now. And I'm sitting in the same place that you are, just trying to make sense of the whirlwind around me, just while doing all of the things that you have to do. I just want to live a normal life for me, for my kids, I never wanted all of this for them. For all of you kids who are here, there's so many of you, you should know we didn't want any of this for you. It breaks our hearts, the adults of this world, because we know you deserve so much better than this hurricane, this perfect storm of economic and political and societal upheaval. Maybe it's the Jew in me, but I really feel like it's a human impulse to wish and hope and pray for peace, that your children should grow up in a peaceful world and not have to fight or struggle or scramble. It's a human impulse to know that you would do anything for them, and it is human to feel horror at the thought that there is nothing you can do to save them from all of the terrors that come next. I wish I was smart enough. God, I wish I was clever enough to know what comes next. I never feel more impotent as a rabbi, just as a parent, than when I look in the eyes of those who expect me to have answers, and I don't have any. Yes, the world is particularly a mess right now, and whether you're a rabbi or a parent or both, you have people you answer to, people who expect you to know what to do next, because that's your job. And it feels like you're failing as a caretaker on top of all the tsuris that you feel every day, you deal with every day, all the weight that's on your shoulders, to feel like you're not doing a good job, that you're failing the ones you love most in the world on top. How do we live in a constant state of upheaval and chaos, one thing after another? How do we build our homes on a foundation of sand? How do we continue on? 5786 is beckoning us right now. And it feels like all that awaits us is more upheaval. So here's my perhaps slightly controversial take. What if all the upheaval, all the chaos, all the confusion that you're feeling and you know and you're experiencing and you're thinking right now, what if the confusion is the necessary starting point? What if the confusion is a precursor? What if the confusion is, as the saying goes, the first step toward clarity? What if it's only when we're in a true state of disorientation, that we are motivated enough to look around and ask the tough questions, to do the difficult work of mending all the brokenness. After all, in my dud of a sermon 3 years ago, that imagined chaos is something you just kind of get through. You just got to wait till the chaos is over. It's almost quaint now to think back. I said then that it's common to misunderstand the very first words of the Torah, and I quoted them, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And you'd be forgiven for thinking, well, there was nothing. And then God created everything. But it's not actually what the Torah says, because that line actually continues on. Va'aretz hayta tohu vavohu. And the earth was tohu vavohu, which means the earth was unformed chaos. Reflecting now on this upside down that we seem to be living through, what if it was the chaos that was necessary for all of creation to then unfold? The impetus to change what was into what will be. For when up is down and black is white, that anything is possible, which means anything is now possible. In the gray area lies opportunity, and we must take it if we want the world to be the one we want to live in, that we want our children to live in. This has been thought before and by someone far wiser than I. In April of 1945, Viktor Frankl, famous Jewish psychologist, he was liberated from Turkheim, a subcamp of Dachau, extermination camp in Germany. A mere 1 year later, he wrote an article in a newspaper where he said, this was 80 years ago, times of transition are difficult times, times of crisis, but these times of crisis, with their woes, a new time is already being born. 80 years ago, he said. It is precisely such times that every individual is burdened with unprecedented, heavy, but glorious responsibility. It depends on every individual, Frankl said, what comes forth out of this time. To have survived what he survived, 3 years and 4 death camps, he persisted through disease and starvation and torture and deprivation, the murder of his parents and siblings, his wife of less than a year, to have lived through all of that and to come out and see that tumult as an opportunity, as he phrases it, a heavy but glorious responsibility. Viktor Frankl knew from suffering, and he suffered in ways that, God willing, none of us will ever know. And he also saw in that tumult, in that chaos, there is a role for each of us to play. We are not meant to sit back, accept our fate, accept that our lives will include suffering, because yes, it's true, life is difficult, and sometimes, like now, it does seem especially so, and in the future, it's uncertain, but it is precisely because we are all alive right now that we must take advantage, that we must see ourselves individually as called upon to do our part to repair the brokenness. And in having a reason, a meaning, we can withstand whatever horror may come. He who has a why to live for, Frankl said, can bear almost any how. Sure, Rabbi, that's nice, you might be thinking. I would if I was you. That's all well and good for Viktor Frankl. He's Viktor Frankl. He's the famous psychologist. He was an expert in the human mind and motivation. He had the strength to survive the Holocaust. Come on. And then to have the strength to live through the end afterwards. And to tell us how to live, to be upright despite the horrors. Yeah, sure, Rabbi, you might be thinking. That's nice, but I'm not Viktor Frankl. I'm just me. That person you talked about earlier, the one who does all the laundry and writes the emails and makes all the lunches. I'm just me. So you do get it. Because, yeah, you are you. You're not just you. You're you. You, sitting here, you are literally the culmination of every person who came before you. Everything had to line up just right for you to be here now. Was it a coincidence? Was it a plan? Who cares? What matters is you are the product of every person in your direct line. You are imbued with the strength of 1,000 generations. We're going to sing it tomorrow as a reminder to ourselves. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim. Oh God, we sing, you remember all of the kind and good acts that we have done for 1,000 generations. A reminder that for so very many years, your predecessors, your ancestors, they withstood 1,000,000 old worlds collapse and saw millions of new ones form. To survive, to thrive, it is baked into your very DNA. And do you think that your ancestors weren't scared? Do you think they didn't feel confused, sometimes overwhelmed by everything happening around them? Of course they did. They just did the hard stuff anyway, which means you can too. 80 years ago, Viktor Frankl wrote that it depends on every single little, he actually put quotes, it's kind of funny, he's kind of making fun of us a little. He knew what we would think of ourselves. It depends on every single little man and what comes of his life and that of his family. Every stone, he said, literally and figuratively is laid today will need to lie there in future decades. And it depends on the way it was laid, whether the next generation is able to keep building. He knew this was heavy at a time such as his and ours. He knew it was a lot to lay on people who are already so tired, a people mired in chaos and confusion, and then to say, no, yeah, and what are you gonna do? But we need to remember that we not only stand on the shoulders of giants, but we are gifted with a holy obligation to set the stage for whatever comes next and whoever comes next. Because while the future may be opaque to us, one day our great-great-great-great-grandchildren's generation, they're going to live there, and they're going to look back at us and what we did and how we lived our lives. And they're going to say, wow, I can't believe I come from them. I can get through anything knowing that they came before me. The future looks more uncertain now than ever. And who knows? Maybe in 3 years, I'll be up here apologizing for this sermon too. But I will do it knowing that I did my darndest at the time to stand proudly, to speak my truth, and to lead to the best of my ability, as we're all called to do in this murky yet glorious era of responsibility and opportunity that we find ourselves in now. An era whose growth pangs are disguised as chaos, perhaps. So may this be a year of realization for you, a year of realizing the extent of your ability, of your capability, of your power to shape the world in your way as you see fit, in the name of your blessed ancestors whose strength and blood flows through your veins, in the name of your descendants, who God already knows will be so proud of you, and for your own sake as well. Shana Tova Tikatevu, may you be signed and sealed for a year of so much good. Shana Tova.